Here we're going to tie the Lawson's no hackle dry fly. We are going to tie it in a PMD color here, which is hands down my favorite PMD I've ever fished with. These are very, very delicate little flies, which means you're going to want to fill your fly box with lots and lots of them. They're only good usually for a fish or two, but they work better than any other dry fly out there, especially in slow water or flat water. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take just a tiny bit of superfine dubbing. I'm just going to barely coat the thread with it. And all we're going to do is build up a little ball here at the back of the shank of the hook, right at the bend. And all this little ball is just a prop for our tails. It's going to keep our tails split and prop them up and away from the shank of the hook. So once I've got those tied in, I'm just going to take my thread to right in front of that little ball, and I'm going to take some white microfibetts. You can use whatever color you feel like using, but for the PMD I like to use white. We're going to take, I don't know, about 4 or so fibers. More than 2, less than 6. And we're going to tie in a tail. It's about the length of the shank of the hook. I'm just going to tie this in on the side of the shank of the hook so it splays away. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing here on the other side. And again, more than 2, less than 6. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to count the tails. Some guys do, but you don't, at least I don't have to. And I don't think it affects the effectiveness of the fly. And we're going to tie these 2 tails right up to that dubbing ball, and that will force them to splay outward, just like so. And then we're going to take our thread. I like to work it forward just to keep the evenness of the body and the taper going. Then you can trim out the excess. And then we're just going to take our thread and spiral it back to where our tails are at. And then again, we're going to take our superfine dubbing in the matching color, and we're going to dub very, very sparse to begin with, just enough to coat the thread. And we're going to start dubbing a body and taking it forward. I like to slowly add as I work my way forward, and you want a very, very slight taper to build up as you work your way forward. It doesn't have to be much, just a little bit of a taper. I like these flies to be tied more on the sparser side than the thicker side. And we're going to dub just beyond 2/3 of the way forward. You can also use dubbing wax to help get this nice tight dub body. Now once I get to the area where I'm going to stop, I'm actually going to take a little bit more dubbing . And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up again a little ball right on the thorax. And what this is going to help do is it's going to help force my wings when I tie them in away from each other. It doesn't have to be much, it just needs to be pronounced and much different than the regular taper of the body. And then I'm going to take my thread to just in front of that. Now we're ready for the wings. This is the most difficult part. I'm going to take 2 mallard wings, or feathers from mallard wing, and these are a feather from each of the wings, the opposite sides of the wings. And we do that so we get the curvature of each of these wings. Here, I'll show you this way so you kind of get the idea. It's going to be hard to tell, but they barely both splay away from each other. And that's what I'm looking for in the wings. And the first thing we're going to do is I like to tie in the far side first, the wing that's on your camera side away from me. And we're going to trim out, on this fly, this is about a size I think 16 or 14, so I'm going to trim out about a dozen or so of these fibers. And these fibers will splay away. See how they have that curve? I want that curve to go away from the shank of the hook. I don't want it to curve in. And I want my wing to be about the length of the shank of the hook, so I just kind of roughly measure it out. I'm going to pinch it into place here. I'm going to do a loose wrap with my thread and pinch down onto the shank of the hook. Then I'll let go. And now, if you need to, you can orient the fibers very carefully. I like to get them all on one side of the shank of the hook. And I like this wing to be oriented up and to the side. Just like so. You got to be very careful when you're orienting it. You don't want to break it. I might have, I didn't quite break it, but I did smush it a little bit. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing on my side. And try to take out off the same amount from the feather if you can. And again, pinch it into place, loose wrap, then capture it. And if one doesn't cooperate with you, this one didn't quite cooperate, I'm going to try again, get a different piece. There we go. And they're about the right size, that's what I wanted. And at this point, you don't want to pull on the thread too tight. So what I'm going to do is get in here and trim out the ends of them. Then I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to cover up those ends, and I want to make sure I get all the way up here to the eye on the bare shank with some nice tight wraps, and then I'll wrap back and then I can tighten down with my thread. I want to make sure, like I said, I get to that bare shank, and that'll help keep those wings into place. Now you can see how those wings are right on the side and they kiss all the way down to the bottom of the hook, which means they'll kiss the water when the fly is fished. That's exactly what I want. Swooping up and back just like a mayfly. Then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to finish off the head with your matching dubbing. And I dub this very tight as well. I like the head to be nice and round and conical shaped. I don't like too many fuzzies sticking out of it. We're going to dub all the way back to those wings. And we'll add just a smidgen more. And these flies, like I said, fish very well. Some of the best mayfly patterns I've ever used. But they are very delicate. Some guys do cement the wings or use fixative at this point. That's a decent option. It helps. But they do fall apart fast. I usually fill my box full of them. They work that good, so it's worth having lots of them with you. Usually your friends will ask you for a few because you're catching all the fish. And to finish the fly, you just take it right up to the eye of the hook, where you can whip finish. And that is Lawson's No Hackle PMD. Not necessarily the easiest fly to tie, pretty simple as far as it just has a few materials, but can be a little frustrating to tie. And if you want your wings to be a little bit more pronounced, you can take them and force them up and forward. And that is the Lawson's No Hackle PMD. You can find all the materials for this fly on our website, intheriffle.com. If you're watching this via YouTube, there's a link right below the video in the description that will lead you to our website, and there you can find all the recipe information as well as the materials to tie the fly. And that is how you tie the Lawson's No Hackle PMD.